Settle in. All righty. Welcome to these few minutes that we have together collectively, each of us from our spot wherever we are, just to come together and pause and really re-anchor ourselves to this present moment. So as you physically come into your space, just allow your eyes to close or allow your gaze just to soften. And let's just pause physically for a moment and just let the breath come. Just notice how you feel. Don't worry about trying to shift or change anything, but just pause and just witness emotionally, mentally, energetically, physically, all the parts. How are you in this moment? We spend a lot of time in our day checking on other people, asking them how they are. And so just feel how different it is just to pause and check in and ask yourself the same thing. Chances are there are times that we show up for our meditation practice, whatever time of day it is, wherever you are. There are times that we anticipate it. We settle in and everything just seems to gel, seems to just have this beautiful rhythm. But then there's other times that things don't always seem to work the way we had anticipated, but yet we show up still. And I would propose that there is beauty in both situations. The beauty comes in the showing up, and that's what we've done here today. And so now as you've witnessed how everything feels, now just really start to pay attention to the breath. Use it to settle yourself a little more. Use it to anchor yourself in the place where you have landed for these few minutes. And then I would invite you, as you're just paying attention to the breath, just kind of keep track of where your mind is trying to go. Just notice those thoughts that just keep kind of coming in. And while you don't follow them, just make note of them. Our meditation practice does not ask us to subdue the thoughts or to push them down or to ignore them. It asks us to be so acutely aware where the mind tries to go. What are the habits, the patterns that attempt to distract us? And so on this day together, I want us to turn our focus to the cultivation of our spirit of gratitude. We've done this many times before. We've paused and thought about what we're grateful for. We've challenged ourselves to shift our perspective about suffering and challenges that we're going through, and again, to find what we're grateful for. We've talked about relationships and people and communities that we're grateful for, that support us, that are part of our path, part of our walk. And so gratitude is not a new concept. But I think with all the changes atmospherically, with the time that shifted this weekend, with the temperatures shifting, the season beginning to change, the holidays before us, however that looks in your family, I think it's a really nice time today just to pause again and check in with our spirit of gratitude. I read a statistic just the other day that said a negative thought or a negative impression attaches itself to our long-term memory almost instantly. But all of these researchers and these neurologists and people who study these types of things that are far more intelligent than I am have also tracked what happens when we have a positive thought to see if it does the same. Does it also attach to our long-term memory instantaneously? And what they've learned is it actually takes somewhere between 10 and 12 seconds for the positive thoughts to find their way into our long-term memory. And again, people who have discovered this are far more intelligent than I am. But I think there's a lesson in that research for us today. It's so easy to let negative thoughts come in. We get frustrated. We feel hurt. We feel disappointment. We feel anger. And then all of a sudden, somewhere in those emotional responses, there's a chance that negativity begins to set in. And instead of just having feelings that are frustrating and feelings that are angry, it turns into a negative response. And what these researchers have said is if we're not careful, those negative responses anchor themselves in our long-term memory. In yoga, we call that samskaras. These memories, these thumbprints on our mind, these thumbprints on our story. And if what they say is true about the positive thoughts taking longer to process into long-term memory, that means we need to work harder at cultivating this spirit of gratitude. And so I would ask you first, just in this moment, what are you grateful for? Without thinking too long about it, just see what comes to mind immediately, what image, what experience. What are you grateful for? And then I would ask each of us just to reflect for the next few breaths. When was the last time that you paused and thought about what you're grateful for? And I don't ask us to reflect on that as a way to feel guilty or ashamed or think that we've done anything wrong, but we do need to be aware. Because if what the researchers tell us is true, we have to work at the positive, affirming thoughts. We have to be intentional about them. And so what I'd like to do over the coming days together is to keep coming back to just this cultivation of a spirit of gratitude. If any of you like to garden, now is the time that you're going into those garden beds and you're weeding out and you're getting things ready and preparing it for the growth that's going to come in the spring. How about if we cultivate our gratitude practice the same way? We start weeding things out. We start paying attention. We start nurturing. And then I would propose, the same way those researchers have, that our gratitude practice can truly begin to shift. Not just shift our attitude, but shift some of the pictures in our mind. It will shift some of the structures in our brain. It will truly transform how we think and how we see the world. And so I want to ask you again, what are you grateful for? Maybe it's the same thing you named a few breaths ago. Maybe it's something else. What are you grateful for? And then I want you each to imagine, and I will imagine as well, that there's a journal sitting right next to your side of the bed. And what if the last thing before you went to sleep today, you paused and you wrote one sentence of something that you were grateful for from that day? Without having an understanding of the neurological work that happens while we're asleep, can you just imagine how it can begin to shift what goes on while we're at rest? And in that same journal, same piece of paper or whatever it looks like is next to your side of the bed when you wake up in the morning. And what if before you picked up your phone, before you started your day, even before that first cup of coffee, what if you paused again and said, I'm grateful for, and you named something else? It could be the simplicity of, I am grateful for the chance to wake up again. I'm grateful for the opportunity of a new day. And if the day before was really tough, maybe I'm grateful that yesterday is done and the past is finished, and I start again today. So I propose those ideas just as a way for us to start to shift our patterns, because it's not just enough to say, I want to be more grateful. I want to express my gratitude more. We have to make a plan. If we're going to interrupt the patterns, interrupt the impressions of the negativity that we're surrounded by that sometimes settles into our minds, we have to be intentional about it. So let's just pause over these next few minutes. And as we pause and we breathe nice and slow and deep and steady breaths, let's reflect on two things. What am I grateful for right now? And what will my gratitude practice look like when I wake up tomorrow? Just keep asking yourself those questions and see what is revealed. One breath, one moment at a time. Just continue to be where you are. Continue to breathe. And I want to share with you and go on record with what my gratitude is today. There's many things that I could list, but the thing that touches me the closest right now is the fact that my meditation practice goes with me everywhere I go. Here I find myself sitting in the middle of Atlanta, this huge city in the United States, filled with activity till all hours of the night. Out my window is Olympic Park with just lights and activity and stuff, but yet here in a hotel room, amidst all the noise, all the lights, all the activity, my meditation practice persists. Doesn't require me to have a certain spot, a certain location, even though those are wonderful and familiar and comforting. It is a practice that goes with me everywhere. I'm grateful for the breath. I'm grateful for the anchor that it provides, for the regulation that allows me to experience when emotional triggers come up. And I'm grateful for community. To know that there are people all across this country, across this planet, who are doing just as we are today. Showing up, anchoring themselves into the present moment, one breath at a time. And then when that next present moment comes, anchoring themselves there. realizing the miracle of each breath that comes and each moment that we get to experience. Which means that I am grateful for you. I'm grateful for your showing up physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually, and that you allow me to show up right alongside you. What are we grateful for? And what will our gratitude practice look like when we wake up tomorrow morning? Continue to sit with the questions and see how the answers come. Namaste.